Hey y'all, it's Leslie Ann, and today's video is a March reading recap. I read 7 books this month, which is phenomenal compared to January and February because man have I been in a reading slump for the first 2 months of 2018. But I'm finally breaking out of that reading slump and I read 7 great books this month, even though I didn't necessarily rate them all very highly. There were a couple of 3s. I enjoyed each book and I can't wait to share them with y'all. The very first book that I read this month was a book by an author that I had never heard of. I've never read anything by her, but I really did enjoy the book. The book is Indecent by Corinne Sullivan. Now, I discovered this book on NetGalley, which is a website that you can sign up for and you can get e-arcs from the publishers, and this one caught my eye because of the cover, but then the synopsis was what really sold me on this book. It is about a girl who has just graduated college and she is going to become a teacher. So I love to read anything about teaching because that of course is what I do. This girl gets her first job at a boarding school and she is technically not a teacher, she's more of a teacher's aide, but it's a very private, fancy boarding school, and she enters a relationship with a student. Oh my goodness, this book was so addicting and so good, but the main character was so frustrating. I spent the entire book just wanting to scream at her and her choices that she made. I couldn't put the book down, but my goodness, the main character made some very poor decisions. I highly recommend this book. It's very addicting, it's very fast-paced, it's one of those that you just can't put down, but be warned, the main character will make you want to scream at the book, just warning. But I did really enjoy this one. I gave it 4 stars. The second book that I read in the month of March was actually our book club pick for the La La Life book club, and it was Sophie Kinsella's newest book, Surprise Me. Now, I love Sophie Kinsella like everybody else. She's just one of those authors that you know you're going to enjoy the book, and I did enjoy this one. But I knew, or I had a pretty good feeling about this one before I even read it, that it wasn't going to be one of my favorites, and sadly it wasn't. And I don't think a lot of people will necessarily feel the same way that I did, but I just couldn't relate to the main character because the whole book is about a couple that has been married for 10 years and they go to the doctor. They have like a joint checkup, which was just sort of odd to me. I'd never heard of that before, but they have a joint checkup for their yearly checkup, and the doctor tells them that they are going to, that they're in great health and that they're going to live for another 68 years. And instead of being excited about this, because of course that's great news, instead of being excited, they immediately start to become overwhelmed and stressed that they're going to get tired of each other, which was just a red flag for me, and a lot of other people said the same thing too. But I don't know, it was just a lot more serious than her other books, and I just missed the quirky characters because her main character is just always this strong, independent girl who's trying to figure herself out and figure out her relationships, and this one wasn't that sort of story. This one, the relationship had already been established and they were just kind of trying to rejuvenate it and spice it up. So I just couldn't relate to this one as much as her other ones. I did enjoy it, but not nearly as much. It was more of a serious tone book in my opinion, and I unfortunately didn't enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed her other ones. But I gave it 3 stars. I still liked it. I still would recommend it, just it's not my favorite of hers. The third book that I read during the month of March was my book of the month pick. Now, if you don't know what book of the month is, it's just like a subscription service for books. You pay around $15 a month, and there are certain books that you can choose from, and if you don't like any of those books, then you can skip them. The one that I picked was Jessica Strausser's Not That I Could Tell. Now, this one was listed as a thriller, which I don't agree with. In my opinion, it's just more of a general women's fiction book. There is a mystery element to it, but in my opinion, a thriller or a mystery thriller is one that just has a lot more emphasis on the mystery, and this one was more character driven in my opinion. I enjoyed this one. I did only give this one 3 stars as well. This one is compared to Big Little Lies, and I get the comparison, I really do, but I loved Big Little Lies, and I thought Big Little Lies was so humorous. Even though the subject matter was very serious, I felt like Big Little Lies did a lot with it and did it in a way that made it enjoyable to read, even though the subject matter necessarily wasn't enjoyable at all. But this one was more of a serious tone and I didn't enjoy it as much. I did like it and I would recommend it, but this one to me did not compare to Big Little Lies as far as how much I enjoyed it or how much I liked the two. I felt like this one was very long for the amount it was. It wasn't an extremely long book, around 300 or 400 pages, but it read like a long book, and to me that's a sign that I'm not enjoying it as much as I had hoped. But I would recommend this one. I do like it. Next, I read Laura Lippman's newest book, Sunburn, which I currently don't know where it's at. I've both of these books, the Not That I Could Tell and Sunburn, but I have no idea where they're at. I can't find them, so I'll just insert a picture here. This one was one that I discovered via Goodread ads. You know, when you're on Goodreads and you see all those ads for different books, sometimes those books are really good, and I'm so thankful for those ads because I would never have heard of the book if I hadn't have seen it on that ad. And some of them are not so good, but this one was extremely good. And come to find out, Laura Lippman has written a lot of books that I have not ever read. And so now she's going to be an author that I am on pursuit of more books, because this one was so good. This is about a woman and a man, and they're drifting through this small town, and they meet each other and they decide to stay for the summer because they've entered this relationship. But you don't really know the intentions of both characters. Both characters are holding things back in their past, and they're not being completely honest, and the reader doesn't understand what's going on either. So as the characters are figuring out each other, the reader is too. It is so good. I was just mesmerized by this. The ending was so shocking. I loved it. Now I know a lot of people have had a problem with the ending because it jumps ahead 30 years and you get to see what has happened to the fate of those characters, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so well done. I highly recommend this one. I gave it 4 stars. The next book was the beginning of my spring break reading, and I was so thankful to read so many good books this spring break. I had a week off from work and I wanted to use it to catch up on books that I hadn't gotten to, because again I'd been in that horrible reading slump, and I had the best spring break reading. The first one that I read for my week off was a young adult book. It's called Shuffle Repeat by Jen Klein. I have never read anything. I think she's written one other book. I've never read it before. This one just sounded cute. I love young adult. It used to be my go-to genre. Now I don't enjoy it as much as I did. I've read a couple that were just so-so and not really anything special or anything to write home about. So I've kind of stepped away from the genre a little bit, but this one was an exception to that, and it made me want to read more young adult books. This one was so good. It was about a guy and a girl, and it's their senior year of high school. They've known each other their whole life. Their moms are best friends, but the boy is more popular and he plays football and everybody likes him. The girl is more of like a loner, and she's not into the whole cliques and the whole popularity scene, so she just sort of is more standoffish. But she can't drive, and so the mothers arrange for the boy, I think his name's Oliver. Yeah, his name's Oliver. They arrange for Oliver to drive June to school every day. And so, of course, the two develop a relationship as far as friendship goes, but then, of course, it turns into something else. It's just so good. I loved this one. If you are in the mood for a lighthearted read, young adult, this one is so good. I loved it. 5 stars. The next book that I read this month, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am obsessed with this book. It's one of my new favorite thrillers. It is so good. Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. Oh my goodness, you guys, this book. If you love thrillers that have twists and turns that you don't see coming and just jaw-dropping moments, you've got to read this one. It is so good. I cannot say enough good things about this one. There's actually a sequel coming out that's called Sometimes I Kill, but it's not out till next year. But oh my goodness, you guys, please read this one. It is about a girl, and she's in a coma, and we shift from 3 different sections. One is her in the coma, and she can't communicate and she can't open her eyes or anything, but she can hear people around her. She knows who's in her hospital room. She can hear them talking about her, but she can't communicate with them. So that's one point of view that we're reading. But then the next it shifts and it talks about a week before the accident that has left her in a coma. And so we get to hear about what's leading up to the events that have put her in this situation that she's in. And then we have a diary entry from her childhood 20 years earlier, which was my favorite part. I absolutely loved the diary entries. This book will leave you speechless. I have read so many thrillers, so I don't want to say I've heard every shocking twist, because of course I haven't, but it's harder to shock me and give me a twist that I didn't see coming because I've read so many. But this one, I didn't see anything coming, and right up until the very last page I was shocked. This one is so good, you guys. You've got to read this one. 5 stars all the way. Loved it. The second to last book that I read during this month is a romance, and romance is my all-time favorite genre, but I have had horrible luck with romance books the past year. I have not found anything that I just absolutely love and that is my new favorite romance. But a girl that works at my Barnes & Noble, she always recommends books to me. She told me about her newest favorite book, and when she described it, I thought, that does not sound good, but I got it anyways. It's Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This book, I really enjoyed this book. Now, I only gave it 3 stars, but hear me out. This book is very serious, and in a romance, I like very humorous romance. Not really lighthearted necessarily, just more of a humorous romance. Ones that the characters don't take themselves too seriously. This one was very heavy and very serious, but for some reason I was so invested in the storyline, I could not put it down. I wanted to know what happened. But boy, the cheesiness in this book, that's what made me give it a 3-star rating, because oh my goodness, I rolled my eyes so many times with this book, and I know not everybody will feel this way. This is just a personal preference, but I found this book to be so cheesy, and that is just not my thing. I don't like that. I don't like when the characters are just really talking about their feelings, and I don't know. It's just, I don't know. But again, the story was just so interesting, and I couldn't put it down, and I wanted to figure out what happened. So that's why I loved this one. I'm going to recommend it to people. I went back the next, the day after I finished this one, I went back to Barnes & Noble and I got the author's other book. I don't remember what it's called, but it sounds sort of along the lines of this one, like as far as the serious tone to it. But just for some reason, the story is just really good. I was so invested. I couldn't put it down. I wanted to know what happened. It is R-rated. Keep that in mind if you want to be warned about that. It is R-rated. But I don't know. If you can get past the cheesiness, if you're like me, if you can get past the cheesiness and the seriousness of it, the story will keep you wanting to read it and pick it up. So I do recommend this one, even though I only gave it 3 stars. And the very last book that I read during the month of March, technically I finished it this morning, which is April 1st when I'm filming this, but I'm going to keep it in my March wrap up because I read the majority of it in March and it's fresh on my mind, and I just want to share it with you guys because I absolutely loved it. It is so good. Now, the cover is one that I wouldn't necessarily navigate toward, but the guy on the book, and I'll show you in a minute, but the guy on the book reminds me of John Kennedy Jr. And oh my goodness, John Jr. is just one of my all-time favorite people, and I just think he is so gorgeous. And the guy on the front of this book looks like him, which doesn't have anything to do with the story necessarily, but it caught my eye, and it made me look at the synopsis and then eventually buy it. It is Transcend by Jewel E. Ann. Now, Jewel E. Ann is a self-published author. I ordered this from Amazon. It's not published by like a well-known company. I think in fact it's just self-published by her. But you can either get it on Kindle or I don't know if you can get it on like iBooks or whatever, but I know you can get it on Kindle, and you can order it from Amazon, which is what I did because I wanted a hard copy of it. This book, the author wrote another book that I have read by her. I read it last summer when a friend recommended it to me. It's called When Life Happens, and it was good, but I had major issues with it. But for some reason, this one just sounded really good, and I thought, I'm going to give the author another try. I'm going to pick this one up, and I'm so glad I did. You guys, this book is so good. It's completely unique. I have never read anything with this sort of storyline before. And I still don't even know where it's going because this is a duology. So the second one is going to come out in 2 weeks, actually less than 2 weeks, April 9th. And boy, I've requested an ARC from the publisher because, oh my goodness, y'all, this book. The book is about a guy, the guy that looks like John Jr. He is a recently widowed man. His wife died in childbirth and he has a 1-month-old. And so he has to hire a nanny to help him with this child because he's a professor. He teaches at a college. So he hires this girl that's 21 or 23, I can't remember. And when she meets him, she immediately has all of these memories about him when he was a child, like in his teen years. And she has no idea why she can remember all of those things because she's never met him. And it kind of, I mean, it weirds her out, of course it would, but he has a theory and she disagrees with it, and I don't want to get into all that because it might ruin the book for you, but I don't know, I want her and the professor to get together. I just think they are so sweet together. But she has a boyfriend, which is sweet. Normally if there's like a love triangle, you know pretty much who she's going to go to because the other one is written in a way that has flaws, but the other guy, her actual boyfriend, is really sweet too. But there's just something about the professor I love. But oh my goodness, you guys, this one is so good. It left on a huge cliffhanger, which is the reason, of course, for book number 2, but I cannot wait to get book number 2. And I cannot recommend this one enough. If you like addicting stories that are romance-centered, you've got to try this one. It is so good. There are some R-rated moments in this one, not as much as Archer's voice, but just keep that in mind if... just be warned about that. But oh my goodness, so good. I cannot wait to figure out what has happened because, like I said, it left on a cliffhanger and it was so good. I want to read it so badly. I want to figure out what has happened and what's going to happen to the fate of our characters. But I don't know, I just loved this one. 5 stars all the way. So those are all of the books that I read during the month of March. I am so happy to say that I had such a better reading month than I did in January and February because I was in the biggest reading slump, and it just felt so good to get invested in some stories again and rediscover some great books that I had been wanting to read and that I was excited to read. As always, I want to know what you have been reading, what you've been liking, what you haven't been liking. I would love your recommendations. If you've read any of the ones that I shared about, please let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear. You can find me on Instagram, my book account. I'll leave it in a link down below. You can also subscribe and give the video a thumbs up if you'd like to. And hopefully I will be back next month with an even better reading recap. But I'll see you then. Bye.